We have a quorum here. We can call the meeting to order. We'll start with a salute to the flag. Mike, Councilman McHugh, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure thing, Councilman. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a moment of meditation, please. Thank you. All right. Read the Sunshine Act. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. Due to COVID-19, the Borough of Fairhaven's municipal facilities are closed to the public. This meeting is being presented through the Zoom meeting platform and being broadcast from Borough Hall at 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this council meeting of February 22nd, 2021 is available by call-in phone number or through web conferencing. Members of the public will be on mute until public questions and comment time is made available, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question and comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. The notice of the meeting was included in the schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2021-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, the Hub, and the Star Ledger on January 7th, 2021. And it was also posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of the meeting. Roll call.
Council members Banahan, Krishner Keefe,
Here.
Koch,
Here.
McHugh,
Here.
Neff,
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here. Okay, thank you. We'll move into the workshop session. The first item on the agenda is the request from Brian Rice to hold summer camp for kids fishing. And I see Brian is on the call. Brian,
Yep.
do you want to just give us a quick overview?
Sure, thank you. So this is our 7th season of the kids fishing camp, and it runs from the 2nd week in July till August 20th. We use the dock probably 3 days a week, depending on weather. It's been really successful, and I talked to the rec committee, and they gave us, the go ahead. So here I am.
Excellent. And what I would say is, at least the 4 years that I've been on council, Brian's come before us. The request has been granted by previous councils. It's been quite popular with the community and kids, and I'm in support of it. Do the council members have any questions about this?
No real questions, more of an assumption because it's been going on for so long, but I'm guessing that there are appropriate insurance protocols in place.
Yes.
Yes.
He provides a certificate of insurance and fills out whatever he needs to with recreation.
Excellent. And Brian, can you just share the ages that the camp is run for?
It starts at 10.
Okay.
And then some of the kids, they kind of phase out at 14, 15. But the youngest is 10.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say that Brian came before the Rec Commission, and they're 100% behind his program. As they
Thank
have
you.
been.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Brian, did you have any COVID protocols last year in place and thinking that we may have to have them in place again this year, possibly?
Yeah, we're going to follow the guidelines for the state. So, Yes, yeah, it's probably safe to assume it'll be the same protocols as last year.
Excellent. I don't think we need a roll call. All in favor of,
You need somebody to offer it and second.
okay,
I'll make a motion that we approve Brian Rice's request for a summer camp.
Enthusiastic second.
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent. Thank you, Brian.
Great. Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Have a good night.
The next item is animal control services for a 1-year extension at a 2% increase. I think, Teresa, do you want to just brief on
I'll
this?
take this. Yes, as you recall, we had discussed this in the past. Our interlocal service agreement with Red Bank was up, and they had sent us figures showing, a different cost share consideration for the 3 years going forward. And we had also received a proposal from the SPCA off of those discussions. I had a follow-up conversation with Z Shahadi, who's the administrator for Red Bank. And I think we all saw the chief's memo or the chief's input on his email. He's very much in favor of keeping the animal control services local and continuing to use our agreement with Red Bank. But of course, cost was a big consideration. So what Z and I came to an agreement today, they're willing to extend our interlocal for 1 year on the same increase that we've had in the past, which would be 2%. That'd bring the 2021 rate to 77.80. And I agreed that Z and I would work together to see if there was a way we can look at this moving forward for the next couple of years after this 1 year extension. If that's in everyone's agreement, we would put the 1 year extension on the next agenda at that 7,780 rate.
Teresa, I'm entirely in favor of that. Maintaining Red Bank Animal Control Services as opposed to the SPCA.
It'll at least give us time to look at it. We are looking to see if we can bring some other people into the agreement to bring everyone's costs down. And of course, in all fairness to Red Bank, they have to look at how this impacts them in the long run also. So, but if everyone here is in favor of the 1 year extension, we'll do that. And it will not negatively impact our budget with keeping it at the 2% increase.
I'll just chime in for a second. I'm happy to hear that Red Bank was willing to give us an opportunity to see what we can do within the next year to address the adjustment, because we were looking at a pretty significant increase having our animal control services through Red Bank, and the alternative through the SPCA is kind of apples and oranges. It's a different level of service from my perception, and gave us just something entirely different, but at a significantly reduced cost over the projected cost through Red Bank. Since Red Bank is willing to work with us this year and explore whether or not other municipalities want to join in the interlocal of the animal control, I think it makes sense to continue with Red Bank this year, and we can reevaluate next year depending on what they are requesting in terms of any sort of apportioned amount or any other adjustments.
Fair enough. Then if that's the case, we'll put it on the next, we'll put the extension on the next agenda, and I'll plan the budget accordingly.
Any other comments? Seeing none. Motion open, public comments on the agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We'll open up. Do we have any attendees with questions?
If you have a question, use the raise hand button and we will call on you. This is agenda items only.
*9 from your telephone. There we go, Tracy
Okay.
called.
See Tracy Cole. Go ahead, Tracy. Just unmute yourself. Oh.
Hi,
Tracy?
everyone.
Okay, go
Yep.
ahead.
Hear me? Tracy
Yes.
Cole, 123 Grange Ave. I had just one question having to do with an ordinance being introduced, or I guess a proposed amendment to land use ordinance regarding stormwater management. And I wanted to know if where this is in the process of adoption? Is this a final decision tonight? And if so, does it reflect input from the Environmental Commission?
That, it's an introduction, so this is not a hearing tonight. So
Yes.
we'll be introducing it only tonight.
I did have an email exchange with the Ralph Windrum, the chair of the Environmental Commission. They did have this on their most recent agenda. And Ralph said that the commission's position was that they would, in agreement that the ordinance should go forward as introduced, and that we give it about a year's time to see how it affects Fairhaven, and then they would take a look at it as a commission, it maybe in about 9 months or so, and see if they're looking to make any recommendations for changes.
Is it true that this will go to the planning board, Teresa, ultimately?
Yes.
Okay.
As
And
well
if-
as the Monmouth County Planning Board as well, because it's a stormwater ordinance and required to be submitted as part of the regional plan, Council President.
Thank you.
Right. It's going to go to the county, the surrounding municipalities, and our planning board for a hearing, probably April 12th.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I ask a question, Councilman Rodriguez? Would there be a chance to ask a question about the DPW ordinance, the purchase order proposal?
Under the consent agenda?
Yeah, either here or later down the road.
Yeah, we can discuss that during consent agenda. Did you have a question on it now?
We can wait until we get to that.
Okay.
I don't see any other hands raised, Councilman, for the public on the agenda items, questions.
We'll close public comment if there's no other questions. We'll move to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion on the regular and executive session minutes? For
Make a
February
motion
10th?
that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Any comments on the minutes? If not, we will have a roll call.
Council members Christner Keith,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
Neff,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes. I'm gonna jinx it. This thing's moving a little too fast for me. We're already on item number 9. Don't tell the mayor. Old business hearing and adoption of ordinances, ordinance number 2021-02 index rate. Motion to hear and adopt the ordinance and open for discussion.
Second.
Do we have a I'm sorry.
Motion.
Motion that.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Teresa, do you want to, you gave a synopsis.
Sure, I'll give you a
last-
brief synopsis for the sake of the public in case anyone has any questions. This is an ordinance that we routinely pass every year. It is basically tied to the borough's appropriations cap. And the state annually sets the amount of the increase in the appropriations cap that we are allowed to bank if we don't use it. And the increase for 2021 is set by the state at 1%. This does, there are costs that are outside our control in the borough's budget. And this does allow us to bank what we can do up to 3.5% total in 2021 if we have the ordinance in place. And then we could use that in the future if we don't need it, because of the changes in the budget, things moving inside and outside the cap. It's the state's way to give us some latitude to control our budget locally. So we traditionally pass this ordinance annually at the advice of the CFO.
Excellent. Any questions from the council, or is then, because this is a hearing, this is open to the public as well?
Any public that has a question in the ordinance can raise their hand. I don't see any hands, Council President Rodriguez.
Thank you. Any council members, any questions?
Just confirming, Teresa, you said we do this every year?
Yes, we do it annually, traditionally, yes.
Any other questions? If not, a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second,
Motion to approve the ordinance?
so
moved.
moved.
Roll
Council,
call?
Councilmembers Banahan, oh, Commissioner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes,
McHugh,
Yes.
Neff,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes. Okay. Moving right along, new business, council committee reports. Councilman Banahan is, said he was gonna join, but not until a little bit later. So, I think, if we want, we could skip unless, Councilwoman Neff or, Teresa, if you guys have anything you want to mention on finance in lieu of Councilman Banahan.
I would only say that we're, our CFO is finishing the annual financial statement. Once that's done, I will forward it to obviously first the Finance Committee and ultimately the full governing body. And then once we have that done in earnest, it allows us to move forward with the balance of the budget project. I have populated most of the budget. I have a few, I'm waiting for a few outside entities to give us some numbers. Most notably would be some of our interlocal agreements that are still under review and a couple of others. But once we get that in place and the AFS, which will give us our surplus numbers, we'll have certainly be able to meet with our full finance committee to take a first stab at the budget.
Excellent, thank you. Moving along, personnel, Councilwoman Chris O'Keefe.
Sure. The Personnel Committee has had a busy start to the year. As many of you know, we were looking to hire and 2 advertisements were placed. Numerous applications were received and many interviews took place. There was a second round of interviews that also took place, and we have 2 excellent candidates who have been offered and have accepted employment. And with the council's approval on the consent agenda, we have hired Borough resident Sandra Papa as a part-time planning board and zoning board secretary, as well as Borough resident Christy Larson as a part-time central office administrative assistant. And we really look forward to their skill sets joining the borough staff and coming on board. And so with that, we hope the consent agenda flies by. In conjunction with that, we've also met with all the non-aligned personnel and have looked forward to adjusting any compensation increases. That resolution is before us tonight on a consent agenda. There are some increases that were historically in line with the 2%. There were a couple of others that were deserving of a little bit more based on local other municipalities and what they were earning, as well as the dedication and talent and commitment that these employees bring to the municipality. And we're really pleased to have them here and their continued hard work. And that is pretty much it from the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, and welcome to our new staff.
Yes.
Councilwoman Koch, Planning and Zoning.
Our next zoning board meeting will be March 4th. There are 3 applications that will be carried from February to March. Our next planning board meeting is scheduled for March 16th, and as yet there's no agenda available. I don't know if there are any applications that are going to be introduced at that particular meeting. For the communications committee, the borough just sent out an email today, a rather comprehensive email listing all important information as it pertains to residents. And with due dates for signups for just about everything you can think of. That information is also available on the Borough website if you didn't receive it as an email. Lastly, under rec, the walking challenge starts today. We have approximately 50 people signed up, which is great. The talent show submissions have closed. We've received quite a few entries, and information is going to go out in the next couple of days for voting on some of the better talents. Spring sports registrations are now live. So if you'd like to register for lacrosse, for softball, or for baseball, you can go on the Borough website. You can go on the recreation website and sign up for that. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Police Fire OEM, Councilman McHugh.
Sure thing. Thanks, Council President. No new news with the police. One update, some residents may be wondering, there was unfortunately an active structure house fire this past week that our fire department amazingly was able to save the house. There was no injuries. So, hats off to our volunteer fire department for excellent job, well done. Regarding OEM, our cases are going down. Good news, we're down to 58 active cases. The trend continues to look like we're going down. So, cases stay on for a month. We didn't add any today. We had 2 come off. So hopefully, social distancing, all the proper procedures, we'll continue to see those numbers go down. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Engineering, DPW, and facilities, I'll take that one. I want to start with something that Councilwoman Koch mentioned. There's this Fairhaven walking challenge or step challenge that started today. I'm sure you could still join. It runs a full month. And I know a couple of council members have signed up. It's a great way to get the legs moving and get some fitness, and also a little bit of competition amongst our residents. So there is a donation that goes to a local charity. So please get involved. The brush committee has another meeting scheduled for early March. We had a meeting earlier in February, and at that point we reviewed many of the results from the survey, and we'll be working on recommendations for the council to consider. On the facilities front, we have a facilities meeting every 2 weeks. I believe the next meeting will be in conjunction with the Green Team. Last week, one of the Green Team members participated. We'll have the full Green Team with us next week, and we reviewed site plans and preliminary drawings for both the DPW and the police department. So those are moving along, and the review of those plans by the public, by the planning board, and by the council is starting to become clear. So I'll try to simplify this. There is a capital review that's done by the planning board. And so that may get done in March, depending on the planning board's ability to do so, but also the architect and engineer's ability to meet that date. So we're working hard to get that done. We will then, the public will be available or eligible to review and provide comments at the meeting, but also provide the facilities committee with comments at that point. And that then we will make some revisions. And ultimately, another ability for the public to get involved will be when the final presentation is done to the full council. The planning board capital review will be of preliminary plans. They will not be final plans. So there will be an opportunity to take feedback into consideration. We haven't nailed down when that regular meeting will be for the council. It will likely be sometime in April, if not later, just depending on how the feedback comes in and the time it takes to finalize the plans to a point where we can have a final presentation. So that's the latest from the Facilities Committee. And as you know, DPW is constantly circling the town because the snow never seems to stop this year. So I just want to tip my hat again for a nice job by the DPW. Rich, thank you. Please send our regards to your employees for doing a good job and keeping the streets clear and helping people get to work. So with that is the end of committee reports. We'll move into the introduction of ordinances. The first ordinance is 2021-03, amending Chapter 30 for stormwater management, which came up during public comments on the agenda items. And I believe as part of the introduction, we'll have a motion and a second, and then we'll hear a bit of a synopsis from Teresa on the amendment. So do I have a motion to open?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Teresa.
I'll give a general overview for the, how we got here piece of it. And then if there's technical questions or anything along those lines, I'm sure Rich Gardella will handle them. But basically and fundamentally, this amendment to the stormwater ordinance came down from the NJDEP. It was worked on internally through our engineering office. It then went to the borough attorney, who went over with a fine-tooth comb and made his changes and recommendations to the ordinance. Came back to the governing body at a workshop session to be discussed. It has, as I mentioned previously, been shared with the Environmental Commission. They have discussed it at their meeting. And as I pointed out, their feeling is that they're behind it going forward as written, mostly to see how it plays out not only in Fairhaven, but across the state. And there is room down the line for making amendments to this ordinance once we see how it's actually implemented and how it impacts Fairhaven directly. Generally speaking, I'm relatively solidly satisfied that we have a very good internal crew. Rich and Nick do an excellent job, and Nick is, a certified floodplain manager, so they really understand stormwater management for the borough. And I'm confident that this is a good ordinance and can and may be improved upon down the road. And if you have a question, I'll handle it if it's procedural. Rich will handle it if it's technical.
Rich, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think Teresa covered it all. And at the last meeting during the workshop, I went through some of the major changes that, DEP is implementing. It mainly has to do with green infrastructure.
Any council questions?
Oh, I was just going to mention, I'm glad that the Environmental Commission was able to review this. And as Teresa mentioned, I have also been in touch with the commission, and they agree that we should first implement the minimum guidelines and then go from there for further changes, if we deem necessary in the in coming years.
Thank you. Not seeing any other comments. Can I have a motion?
We got it. We got the motion and second
Okay.
for discussion. Roll call would be council members Krishner Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Neff,
Yes.
Arvidas.
Yes.
The hearing will be April 12th.
Thank you very much. Ordinance number 2021-04, amend salary ordinance. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a
Second.
Second.
Okay, and I believe Councilwoman Krishner Keefe and maybe Teresa want to tag team this one?
I'll start, and then Councilwoman Christie Keith can add in if she feels appropriate. like many towns, the state law requires us to set salaries by ordinance. And like many towns, what we do is we set the ordinance in a range, and then we set the individual salaries annually based on either a contract, which can be either an individual contract or collective bargaining contract, or a resolution as we have on here tonight for the non-aligned salaries. So what it does is it shows the range of which the borough is willing to pay or is appropriately paying for salaries, and yet gives us a chance not to have to adopt the ordinance annually. We set it annually by either contract or resolution.
I don't have anything to add. I think Teresa covered it.
Great. Any other council questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call.
And the hearing and adoption will be March 8th. Council members, Chris O'Keefe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
Neff,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes. Okay, so consent agenda resolutions. I know before we move forward, I think there was a question about 2021-66. Councilwoman Neff had wanted to make a comment or a question before we move to approving the consent agenda.
Yeah, I had a question on two different ones. So that first one, it really had to do with the timing of events on the DPW plans going forward. Are we far enough in advance? Are we far enough along in the plans that maybe we should have an opportunity for a community meeting before we go to the planning board, so that there is an opportunity for exchange with the community before it gets to the planning board? Part of the reason for my question is that I fear we're getting further along in the plans, and once we get to the planning board, it seems to me like it's pretty far along for community feedback.
Yeah, the idea with getting the planning board going is getting the capital review done. Provides a opportunity for the public to see preliminary plans before final plans. In order for us to go before the public with a final presentation, we'd probably have to kick that can down the road to at least April. So the idea of getting it before the planning board is to actually get the public a view earlier. If you're suggesting that we move that out to see more fuller plans, then we could do that. But I think we would then end up dragging it out a little bit further. And I don't think that's the desire of the facilities committee or the council.
Okay, I guess I'll just ask for feedback from my council members. I just want to make sure that the community has enough opportunity to comment on the plans while they are in draft form and preliminary. I fear that once we get to final plans and we're presenting final plans to the community, it might be too late for any more significant revisions or any major feedback for the community to provide. But I welcome the thoughts of others, and if this is the pace that is being proposed is the one that the council wants to go with, that's fine.
Yeah, if I could just jump in for a second, I'll echo what Councilwoman Neff has mentioned here. I guess my concern or question would be around the meaning of the word final. I understand you want to present a cohesive plan to the public. I guess my concern is once it's, again, like Councilwoman Neff said, once it's gone to the planning board, it's becoming more fully baked. And so, for example, a site plan was circulated to the governing body. One I'd not seen before. I guess my question would be, is that something we cannot share, even forget presentation, just in conjunction with what we're looking at now on this resolution? You know, and I'm not on the facilities committee. So I understand that the work is a process. It's not doesn't happen overnight, and you look at things and you might say, move this and move that. And so I respect what you're trying to do and that you have a process and a plan. I just echo that concern that the public has an opportunity to weigh in throughout the process. And is that time now? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that that has, I'm trying to reconcile to 2021-66, and I don't think the timing that the facilities committee and planning board has I don't know that that has anything to do with this.
Well, I would disagree to the extent that the public works building is defined in a dozen line single space paragraph describing the building, how it's situated on the property, where certain things are, that there's an attached annotated site plan that is in conjunction and referred to in this proposal that we're looking at to approve. So that would be my only comment. And again, I respect that there's a process and a plan in place. I just question whether or not presenting that document in conjunction with this meeting on a screen share or something of that nature, is that inappropriate? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that in order to continue the progress, I think we need to have this proposal. So I think it's sort of, I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg. We can move, I don't think we will, but I think we can move the building. We could, make it smaller. We could decide not to do the building. There's a lot of things we can decide with public input, but without approving moving forward with their professional services, I don't know that we can get that done, because that includes architecture and site planning and all of that.
Councilman Rodriguez, I would just like to make sure that before the plans are submitted to the planning board, I know at that point, the public does have the option to speak or to talk about or to talk to the plans. But I would like the public to have the opportunity to weigh in even prior to that, because I think, as Councilwoman Keefe said, once we get to the planning board, those plans are pretty much moved along and in process. And it's not going to be easy to make a lot of changes at that point. Not that we would make changes, but the opportunity to make change probably won't exist at that point, unless it is suggested by members of the planning board.
Yeah, this is a different kind of approach, and maybe Rich and Teresa, you can talk about this as well. This is a capital review, which is actually, I think, different than a normal subdivision or some type of procedural thing that the planning board usually goes through. I don't think it's the same type of review. Of course, this is the first time. This is probably our biggest project we've ever done. I'm a little reluctant to push the planning. I think it's every 2 months out to May. I want to try to keep moving this forward, which I think the entire facilities committee wants to try to keep this moving forward. If we need an additional, just because the planning board reviews something and just because the public gets to see a preliminary drawing, doesn't mean anything's locked in stone. We can have 10 public meetings if we want. I don't know that we will. I think a couple of public meetings is probably useful. Having a public meeting before or in addition to or right after or in conjunction with, I think in conjunction with the capital review is a good place to do a preliminary review, then have the public review a final presentation, which is, I think, a bit more fitting. And that we talked about at length on the facilities committee. I know Councilman McHugh has been participant to those committee meetings. I'm interested if you have any comments on that.
Sure, Councilman. Without sounding redundant, the planning board, like you were saying, Councilman, it's a capital review. So it's almost like a, I don't know, Greg, if you want to fill in the word, but it's like a courtesy to the planning board. So it's almost like a sneak peek for the public before the public presentation. So it's an opportunity for the public to get a look at it. And Teresa, we talked about actually publishing PDF files on our borough website. So it also gives the public time to digest after the planning board meeting, so that they can essentially do their homework, have their questions lined up. So when they come to the planning board or to the public presentation meeting, they have their questions, they're informed, and we can kind of check the boxes and cross off, take their considerations and kind of consolidate everything. So it's not, so the public isn't taken by surprise. They have an initial review and then there'll be time for another public review.
I think if I try to give a synopsis for what the thought process was for the facilities committee, taking note of the council members' input here, I think the facilities committee, if you recall, when we came up with the original schedule, we went out of our way to make sure that at every turn there was ability for input from either the public, the planning board, and then back to the facilities committee for review, and then keep moving it through with checks and balances that way. And I think the facilities committee wanted to start with the planning board for a number of reasons. First of all, when it comes to the DPW site, first of all, there was already a capital review with the planning board for a prior plan. So they're familiar with it. And I believe it's fair to say that the architect had already taken their input. I also think it's fair to say that the facilities committee has great respect for our planning board and their input. And they didn't want to go too far down the road with plans, particularly site plans, without getting their feedback. And if you think of the DPW building, we're not talking about final plans. The architect hasn't even put pen to paper for what we would even think were close to final plans when it comes to the actual building. These are more concept plans and site plan basics to look at to get a feel for how the planning board and ultimately the public, because they can participate in the meeting, sees what pretty much you saw today, Meg, when you're looking at this, what I emailed you for this proposal. We want to get that out there to make sure that the planning board and the public have a chance to take a look at that with the facilities committee's feeling. The PD site's a little different. What you're going to find with that is there's not a whole lot of site plan work and not a whole lot of movement on that. That's more going to be conceptual of what you're looking at the building to see how the public sees if they think that fits into the character of the neighborhood. But once this is done and we get feedback from both the planning board and the public, then it's back to the architect and then ultimately back to a public presentation. And the only final presentation will be to the governing body, because you will be the ones that make the final decision on when something's ready to go out to bid. And at that point, then the plans will be fully baked. They'll have everything that looks like regular bid pack construction plans from the architect. And that, that's a ways down the road. So I think to Councilman Rodriguez's point and Councilman McHugh, they really wanted to get early input from both the planning board and the public to make sure that what they have up to this point looks good, and then they can move on to the next step. Is that fair, Chris?
Yes, and I think it'll cost us more money and it'll cost us more time if we follow a different path. And so we were trying to be prudent with money, with time, and with our action. And the reason why I say that is if we go to a public process, we need to have more information and more drawings, and that's going to be further down the line, which is like an April-May timeframe. And if we wait till then and we get a lot of input that's negative, then we've got to go and revise. So now we've lost 1 or 2 months and we've spent all the money on more finalized design. So we're doing a preliminary or higher level review with the planning board, which is normal. To do something that's a public presentation before that would require it to be more refined. And so with that, I strongly suggest that we follow that process, though I still don't think this this particular proposal has anything to do with the order by which we present. It's not in this document. It's not something that's going to hold up the review.
So let me just respond briefly. I guess I'm getting confused because I'm hearing two different things. I understand the idea of a formal presentation of these plans. Is there any objection to sharing the site plan that was circulated to the governing body?
Well, we don't have the professionals on the call to explain or answer the questions that I'm sure will come up. So I don't know that there's any objections. It's just we would like to do that and present that appropriately with the right professionals. They're not on this call.
Sure, I understand that. I'm just trying to understand because if I remember correctly, in conjunction with the police department, the concept plan was shared in advance of us approving the contract. So as a governing body member, I would love the feedback from the public to say, yeah, that PD concept plan, that looks really great. Or had you considered this, or had you considered that? As a governing body member, I'd like that feedback. And I would think the facilities committee would want that feedback on the concept plan now, because it's a concept plan arguably that has not been explored, presented, or shared in previous versions of DPW plans, which, as we know, have kind of morphed over an extended period of time, and we're trying to get to the work and get it done. I hear what you're saying about the process, but if you bake the plans even more and then present them, and then the concept plan is a total wash on public opinion, then you're going back 2 months of work. So I just share that, and I appreciate that consideration from the facilities committee.
Yeah, I mean, if I may go back, you know, and to this point, I just think that we don't want to get too far along and have a public backlash because something about the concept of the plans may not be well received. I think the plans that I at least have been submitted to the council are different enough from what's on the website today, on the borough's website, that we should make sure that we either have the public be able to comment now and go to planning board later, or we really have to advertise this planning board meeting extremely well and make sure that the public knows that's their first opportunity to comment, because it's completely different from what is on the borough's website today. It might be very well received, but I just think that, you know, this council and the previous council last year told the public there will be plenty of opportunity to comment. And I'm just afraid that once they are commenting too far down into the process, they're gonna feel like they didn't have any real input from the beginning. That it was not really a community visioning project. It was something that was delivered to them already mostly digested and nearly done. So it's just, you know, and it might be very well received by the public, by the way. I think the plans are great. So I just want to make sure that we do the proper process so that people really feel included from an early start, not further down the road.
Couldn't agree more. And that's why we chose the path that we're suggesting. You said you had a second question?
It's on a different topic.
Let's tackle that. Any other, before we move on, any other questions on 2166? Nope. Okay. Councilwoman Neff, you had another question on a different item?
Yes, and this one might be a silly question, but I had to ask, is on 2021-70, the aerial spray, mosquito spray. Can someone explain how that would work out and how that's coordinated? Is someone coming from above and spraying over the town? How does that work out?
It's basically, you know, handled routinely through the Monmouth County Mosquito Commission, which they will pick and choose when and where they need to spray as necessary throughout the year. And we do post the information on our website, and they do advise us if and when they're going to spray in our area. And we would also keep the public informed on that. They don't always spray, Councilwoman Neff. It depends. This is more of a blanket global approach where they have every town, you know, approve this so they can assess spraying as needed depending on what diseases are out there and what kind of rainy season they have and how many mosquitoes are out there. but we will post that information on the borough's website. And when and if they're going to spray and they let us know in town, we let the public know that. Would let the public know that.
And sorry to follow up, Teresa, thank you for that. And it's just that my lack of experience with how this has been done before. Do we ask people not to be in those areas that are sprayed, or how does that work out?
We don't actually tell people what to do, except for the fact that they may be spraying at a certain time and place. And we usually leave it to the public to make a determination on whether or not they feel comfortable being out and about, in the areas that are designated. There's only certain areas, that they generally look to spray in. It isn't universal all the time. So I think in my memory serves me correctly, occasionally they will spray along 4th Creek or some of the areas that they identify as standing water pools that may be available throughout the borough. I don't even think they sprayed it all last year. Did they, Allison?
They did do a flyover.
One flyover, yeah. It's not that often, truth be told.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure, there were no health concerns. I'm assuming there aren't any, and that, people have the chance to know about this.
Any other comments on that, on the mosquitoes? Any other items anybody wants to touch on the consent agenda before we approve?
I have one quick question
Sure.
over here on 21-71 appointment for affordable housing. I don't see any numbers for cost. Is this the same? Are they going to be billed the same as planning hourly? How is the
It is,
expenses going?
Councilman, and I don't anticipate we would need this service necessarily at all this year. This really depends on how far down the road we get with our affordable housing and whether or not we'd be trying to utilize any of our development fee trust fund. But as part of our agreement with our settlement with the affordable housing, we have to have this hiring group appointed as our administrative agent. We actually did it last year, and this is just renewing it for 21, and their contract is in that to be part of this approval, should we need their services.
Okay, thank you.
Last call for anything on the consent agenda. And if not, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Council members Christopher Keefe,
yes.
Koch,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Neff,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes. Okay, moving through. Department reports, police, municipal court, and budget status. Is budget status a department report?
It's just put on every
Okay,
meeting. It was decided by council last year, just so you have an update of where we
Okay.
are.
it looks separated. Sorry for that. I'm just reading it weird. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to open good of the borough.
So moved.
Please raise your hand if you have something for good of the borough, and you will be recognized.
Please observe 3 minutes maximum. Any council people want to make any comments during good of the borough?
I would like to commend Council President Rodriguez on a very expedient meeting.
It wasn't my fault. It was a fairly light agenda, but thank you.
I also wanted to say thank you for, getting the people walking in town. I really think that's a great idea.
I have to thank the rec committee for that. I think the mayor called it the president's challenge in ribbing me a little bit for the amount of steps that I take, but it'll be great for the general health of the town. We'll see a lot of people out walking around.
And congratulations to the mayor who became a granddaddy this weekend, hence his not being able to attend. So,
I do not see any members of the public with their hands up.
And we are tap dancing. Oh, Becky,
Oh,
we have
I
one.
stand corrected.
There we go.
Becky, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question or make your comment.
Hi. Rebecca Lomba, 16 Allen Street. I just had one question because I think I did miss one meeting. And I heard Councilwoman Neff say that the plans on the borough for the public works are not up to date. And my question is very simply, where, as it stands at this moment, realizing there could be changes ahead, where is the building?
The building will be in the midsection, currently proposed in the midsection of the site. So not at the very north end, not at the very south end, but it will be running east to west rather than north to south. And it'll be adjacent to the north end of where the building is today. So if you can picture, where the salt dome and the gasoline tanks are, those will no longer be in that position.
Okay.
And we will likely, hopefully in March, we'll be able to pull together enough of the plans that will be satisfactory to present to the planning board and public simultaneously.
Okay, so next month we should have a rough out architectural of where it's going to be now.
Yes.
Okay. And I mean, like I said, I did miss a meeting, but that's the first I heard, that it was yet moved again. But I'll wait to see.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think we've done 33
I'm sure.
concepts at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I'm
We're
sure.
trying to find the absolute perfect one, and hopefully we've
There's
landed
no
on it.
such thing. There's no such thing. That's for sure. Okay, I'll wait next month and check in again. And I'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I have telephone number 0294 recognized, and all you have to do is unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead, 2494. Sorry.
Mrs. O'Neill.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. Elizabeth O'Neill, 146 3rd Street. I just want to comment on the building process that is going on, and as a member of the public would appreciate as much transparency as possible so nobody is surprised. Secondly, I still am in protest of the rec center. There's hearsay information going around town about it, and I would like to know where I need to go to stay on top of it. Which committee?
So I can tackle that. In
Hi.
terms of, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I just said hi.
Oh, okay, hi. This is Chris Rodriguez. I'm not sure if you could see me. I think you're dialed in.
I'm done.
We will not likely make any plans for any facilities whatsoever at the ball fields until after the police department and the DPW are in motion and complete and not completed in terms of construction. But you have not missed anything. This particular meeting, you can always get information or you can contact me directly. Also, we will incorporate the rec committee as well. So if you ever attend any of the rec committees, we will be gathering input from them as well. So I think you mentioned some hearsay around town. We had broken up our facilities topics into 5 buckets. The first one being the police department as the priority, and the second one being the DPW. Others would include the current Borough Hall and Library, Bicentennial Hall, and then the 5th one would be if any facilities would be created for rec purposes, whether at the 3rd Street Ball Fields or if we elect to do that at Fairhaven Fields, where there's parking and a bit more space in terms of recreation. No decisions have been made, no recommendations have been made. We're first dealing with the police department and the DPW.
Okay. So I should be attending the planning board meetings, the borough council meetings, and the rec center just to stay in touch.
Well, the planning board meeting that's coming down the pipe, and we would also post a lot of this in our communications if you've signed up for our constant contact email blasts, but you're not required to. I think the planning board is really the end of the road, for more baked ideas as opposed to the beginning.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say specifically for any rec center type or community center type plans, you would need to do anything with the planning board anytime soon. I think you've got a significant amount of lead time on that.
Excuse me,
Excellent.
Councilman Rodriguez. I think it's also helpful to check the agendas of those particular meetings, whether it's the rec committee or the planning board. If there's going to be a discussion on any type of rec facility, it would be on the agenda.
Good advice. I will check that out.
And
My second.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Continue.
I was just gonna say, I know
No.
we've spoken and that you had my word that I would contact you if we ever pulled any public comment or community interaction together. And I do think that would be a good thing to gather some feedback from the people that lived on 3rd and Maple and Allen and William and Fisk and Cedar, because those folks all surround that area, and I renew that offer.
Yes, and I've tried to, I have petitions going, and with the weather and COVID and whatnot, people don't answer their door. So I'm trying, but we will continue when the weather breaks. My second issue is we have a dog do problem. People not cleaning up after their pets. And I know that there are signs that can be attached to existing, for instance, no parking this side of the street, whatever. Could we do something about that?
We try our best to, on a regular basis, in all our different social media and hard newsletter disbursements, to offer advice to the public about how important it is to curb your dog as an education campaign. And I think most of our public is probably very cooperative. I think it's probably just it doesn't take much, but a small percentage of people in one area to end up with an issue. And if it's over on 3rd Street, if that's the case, I'm not positive we have curb your dog signs on those. We certainly can do that, but I don't think the signage is as effective as the campaign to educate people that if you don't curb your dog, ultimately it ends up in the Navesink River.
Oh, absolutely. Amongst the mess that it creates for the homeowner. It's surprising because on 3rd Street, everything is offered for the pet owner to take care of their litter, so to speak. But I don't know if our area is just a particular spot because of the park, but I have seen the signs and I wondered maybe we could get a couple for 3rd Street.
We'll take that into consideration for sure.
Would appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Will do. Do we have any other public participation? I don't see any.
I don't see anybody.
Council members, any final parting thoughts while we tap dance and wait for anybody else that wants to make a comment?
Teresa, can you just quickly tell us where we can find the plans on the website? I wasn't aware they were posted to the website.
I'd have to look, honestly, Councilman, I don't do the direct posting. I think they're probably
They're on the
under,
planning board. They're on the
Yeah.
planning board website and through the public information on the front. If you scroll down, I think it was posted last September, October 2020.
Oh, okay.
These
I
are
actually,
the,
I actually thought it was in the police.
It could be in the police also.
Tab, Councilman McHugh.
and
Pretty
we'll
sure.
update them before the, we'll update them after the facilities meeting on the 3rd of March and before the planning board meeting on the 16th, if we're going forward with that timing.
Yeah, that
And
sounds
I'll be
great.
good to do that, and maybe Teresa put it on the main page, or, create a link on the main page so that it's
Okay.
easier.
That's fine.
and we can get it into the email blasts that we do, and just, we'll publicize. Somebody had a comment. We need to publicize the heck out of the presentation, which I'm sure will get coverage in the local media and be on all kinds of social media and digital media and so forth. So I don't think we'll have a problem getting people there.
And one
What
of
is
the
the
things
date
I'm
of
going
the
to speak to the
presentation?
borough attorney about is I'm assuming that we'll have a quorum of the governing body participate in this planning board meeting. So I will ultimately leave it up to the borough attorney how we advertise that and whether or not we want to advertise it as a joint meeting, taking into consideration that whether we're going to consider the governing body members part of the meeting or whether we're going to consider them just bystanders who are watching the presentation to the planning board.
Greg, if we, Councilwoman Christopher Keefe, let me ask one follow-on question to that, and then I'll turn it over to you. Greg, do we have, if we attend the meeting, but we're not part of the presentation, is that a violation of the Sunshine Act or any other statute?
No, I would double check with the planning board attorney because it's their board and how they conduct their meeting isn't up to me. That being said, as long as, obviously I don't want the governing body participating in a planning board meeting, although a capital review is a slightly different item. I think that nuance here, we could have a better, longer discussion about that. But generally speaking, it would be okay as long as you're not all participating or a quorum participating or really participating at all. And then 2, if it's okay with the planning board attorney, because it's the planning board attorney's board, not mine.
And by participation, you mean lines of question or answering questions as opposed to observing as a public participant?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 members of the governing body on the planning board. I would limit the the participation in that to them. The other 5 should really just be watching. That's why
Okay.
the governing body has representation on that board already.
Understood. Thank you. Councilwoman Christopher Keefe, you had a comment.
What is the date of this meeting?
March 16th.
Okay, thank you.
St. Patrick's Day Eve. I see no more public participation. Can I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Thank you. And that concludes our meeting. With no new business, I move to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
job, Chris.
Good
Yeah,
night.
Chris.
Good job.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye.